What's going on, everybody? It is Anthony from hashtag Be the Change, Truth Will Set You Free, and of course, right here, Blunt Force Discussion. I think we all know what's going on in our world. We're having some very interesting issues, especially in the United States of America. We've got division on a level we have not seen before, and the one thing that we lack is the ability to have a conversation. There's a lot of these going on, these pseudo conversations about Roe versus Wade, pro-choice, pro-life, all the different things that are causing this big conversation with the overturn of Roe versus Wade. What I saw last week, which inspired me to say, if I'm going to have a blunt force discussion special, it's because nobody else is willing to do this. And this might be the beginning of many. I watched Emmanuel Acho have an uncomfortable conversation with all pro-choicers and a minister or a pastor that was very middle ground. And the three pro-choicers that were on the panel had all had an abortion. One, there was misinformation and a lie that we might discuss in this conversation today. But at the same time, that's not an uncomfortable conversation. That's just people sharing their story. Instead, what will bring people together is to take people that are pro-choice and are pro-life, even pro-abortion, and have a conversation to see why people feel a certain way. With that said, we've got some guests with us this week, and some of which I've been friends with, some of which I've shared stages with. And then, of course, one that I got to meet recently. He's been on Truth Will Set You Free a bit. So I'm going to introduce each of you separately. We've got BJ Antwell. I went to high school with you, and you're a Republican.
I am.
And you are also...
Lifelong.
And you are now, well, not now, but you are also...
Pro-choice.
Pro-choice. Marie Cosgrove, you have a backstory that really lends itself to why this is an important topic for you. So Marie, introduce yourself.
So my name is Marie Cosgrove. I am a resilience expert, and I'm also the author of Greater Fortune, Essential Lessons from the Entrepreneur Who Bought the Company That Fired Her. I'm an international speaker and entrepreneur.
Excellent. And then at the other end of the table, and I'll give you a full introduction. I just kind of skipped over. I was like,
all good.
The Jewish guy that I knew, don't worry about him.
I'm sorry, BJ.
Yeah, so I felt like I was like, do I go Jewish or black first? Very confusing.
Well,
so we got LaDale Buggs.
Inclusion. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing, man? My name is LaDale Buggs. I'm an entrepreneur, businessman, a real estate development, finance. I am independent, but I lean conservative. So that's my views.
Got it. And BJ, what do you do?
So I am a retired cybersecurity executive, now in real estate.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. So the conversation we're going to have, and I haven't said my beliefs, and as you can see in the byline below, I just say host. I am definitely non-pro-abortion, but I do lean more on the pro-choice side, which I know turns off some of the viewers that we have from Truth Will Set You Free. And I want to better explain where each side comes from. And at the end, the goal of this conversation is not to all of a sudden make LaDale at the other end of the table be pro-choice, or to make Marie go, no, your parents should have had an abortion. That's not the point. The conversation is to say, why do people feel a different way? So we're going to get started, but the one thing I want to say, guys, if you want to help out this show, please go to patreon.com/blunt force discussion. We could use as much help as we can get. If you want to be an advertiser, let us know. We have a couple things we're going to share during this episode that hopefully keep the lights on in this gigantic studio. Just kidding, Joe. No offense. But all right, let's go ahead and get started. First off, I said that I'm pretty vague about my beliefs. I want to start with the overriding concept. First off, Roe versus Wade. You know what, LaDale, we talked about it on the show the other night.
Sure.
Before we get into pro-choice and pro-life, what does Roe versus Wade being overturned actually mean?
From what I understand from a legal standpoint, it really it takes the federal government out of the picture and pushes it back toward the states, and the people get to decide if they want abortion in their state or not. That's how I understand it.
Got it. And then, BJ, when you see this from a federal level, and the interesting thing about this conversation is all of us in this room are actually currently Republican voters.
Yep.
Do you believe that this is an encroachment of rights to overturn Roe versus Wade's, the federal aspect of the right to an abortion?
Yes and no. So I think that I think that there should obviously be a right to an abortion. I think that should be listed in the Bill of Rights. I agree that with the only thing that I agree with from the majority opinion in this overturning of Roe versus Wade is the fact that the SCOTUS should not be in the lawmaking business right? And that falls back to the legislation. But in absence of any legislation, and the entire government has rested on the Roe versus Wade decision for 50 years here, and so they haven't felt the need to enact any legislation, right? So I think that there was some shifting, not shifting. I think that there was some removal of responsibility that the SCOTUS probably should not have done.
Yeah.
But ultimately, no, it should be in the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
Is where it should.
So are you essentially saying that it should be codified?
Yeah.
Okay. So what they were trying to push for at kind of the last hour when they realized the Supreme Court was going to be overturning it.
Wait, say that again.
So what they were trying to turn it into law in the 25th hour before we knew what was coming down the pipe.
Roe versus Wade essentially created law.
Okay, correct.
Right. And the overturning of it, I think, in my humble opinion, I think was irresponsible of the Supreme Court, because they just overturned it, and they left 50 years worth of law just out the window where there was nothing else in place.
Got it.
Right.
So, all right, Marie, I think what's going to be very interesting at the beginning of this is to first, because I think I'm gonna have everybody go around, but I want to start with you on why they are pro-choice or pro-life. But your backstory is obviously something that you're not going to see shared typically. What we're going to see is most people saying, if I didn't have an abortion, I would have become this, or I wouldn't have become this,
Right.
et cetera. But your story is very different. So if you could, are you okay sharing your story?
Sure, I'm okay sharing my story. So my backstory is I was born to a mentally disabled single mom. She was in a car accident. She had permanent brain damage. Every reason why I should be aborted was given to her, including you're bringing a child into this world who's a product of rape, into poverty, to a mentally disabled single mom. This child's going to be born with mental disabilities or physical disabilities because she was under like 20 different medications. She was raped during recovery, so she couldn't take care of me. So every reason the doctor said, this child needs to be aborted, and my mom said, no, God saved my life, I'm going to save the life inside of me. Mm-hmm. And my grandmother supported that decision. Because of that, I'm here today. And ironically, the company that I was fired from, that I bought 10 years ago, that's what we do. We help people like my mom. And so we've impacted over 1.5 million patients to date that have had traumatic brain injury. They've had all kinds of issues with cognition and balance issues as well. So I'm very passionate about it because I wouldn't be here today if I had been aborted. So from my perspective is, we look at the right of the mother, and I do believe in freedom of choice. Mm-hmm. God gives us freedom of choice, whether to follow him or not to follow him. Right? I am a Christian.
Or to break the law or not.
Or to break the law, right.
We do have free will.
But there are laws on the book. I mean, we have, do not murder. Can you imagine? Well, we have free will, but because we have free will, you can go ahead and murder. No, we would never do that. And so my point of view is, what about the child? That child is an individual person. Science has proven that they have their own unique DNA. Mm-hmm. I am not the man who raped my mother. I'm not that person. And we are not God to decide what is the potential of this child. Now, I've heard arguments of, well, you're going to bring in a child into poverty. Mm-hmm. And we have plenty of examples, lots of examples of people that were brought into poverty and have made huge differences in the world. Mm-hmm. Huge differences. Look at your iPhone. You wouldn't have your iPhone, But then I hear another argument of, well, who's going to abort these? Right now we have, I don't know what the statistic is. Last one I heard was like 35,000 parents waiting to adopt, but what if they disappear? Well, that doesn't even make sense. That's not a logical argument because my son,
so
my youngest is 12. He's going to turn 18. What if he decides to adopt, So the world keeps going, it's a cycle. You've got new people coming into the world and some people can't have children. So that's not a logical argument. Another argument is, oh, well, we're overpopulated. But then, yet again, and from the left, we saw statistics just recently that we have a huge problem sustaining Medicare and Medicaid because we don't have enough people
Young
in the
taxpayers
in the
workforce,
workforce. You don't have enough people in the workforce, and if we don't have enough people in the workforce, who's going to support Medicare and Medicaid? And there's going to be a problem because we don't have enough people in the world. That's why we need immigration.
That's the macro aspect of looking
Exactly.
at
So
it.
their argument is, let's bring in immigration because we need more people in the world. Well, you got babies can come into the world.
Right.
So that's, to me, is not a logical argument. So that's my perspective in that regard.
And if anybody, real quick, because I'm going to go to you next, BJ. Your backstory, it's not, and you didn't just, become this professional and say, look at where I am. You have thrived in your life, and you are, forgive me, you're a badass. So
Thank you.
So if people want to know, I would suggest pausing this at this point to better understand why it's so important that we learn why you're here. What's your website so people can hear your full backstory?
Sure, mariecosgrove.com.
Yeah.
And yes, my life hasn't been easy. Yes, it's been hard. Yes, I've had adversity, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I would go through that adversity again because I believe that every life has value. Every life has purpose. Doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter if you come from poverty or you come from wealth.
Yeah.
Everybody has a purpose in this world. So I'm very passionate about that. And you know what? Everybody goes through adversity. Every single person. So let's provide support systems to help people overcome adversity.
And I think it's interesting that and this is where it becomes right, left, et cetera. Elizabeth Warren freaking out that there is 3-1, and this is where I do lean more on the pro-life side, even though I do consider myself overriding pro-choice. It's 3-1 that there is help centers to go in and tell women they don't need to give up the baby. Who cares? It's just that is actually pro-choice. It's giving them the choice to keep the baby. So the logical fallacies that are being presented from the left is very, very frustrating because it's essentially masking their overriding point of rare, exceptions, and safe.
Sure.
So I'm going to have BJ go ahead and explain your belief system and how important it is to you even potentially on this election cycle.
Yeah. So for me, first of all, let me say, right, that's an amazing story. I'm glad that you're here. And most people that I know who are amazing in this world did struggle with adversity at some point, and it creates resilience. And so I have the absolute, you can see I've got goosebumps on my arm from listening to your story. So I in no way, shape, or form do I want to take away from any of that. For me, I think what this comes down to is the mother, right, and her rights. And your mom, right, the doctors were advocating for an abortion, it sounds like, which I don't think is right on the doctor's part, right? I think it solely relies in your mom's hands, personally. But what if having you destroyed your mom mentally or physically? What if that was a thing, right? And so for me, what it comes down to is you've got a person who is born, who does have rights, who files tax returns, hopefully, who votes, hopefully, but they're a full-fledged human being, living, breathing, etc., and they have rights over themselves. And while I am pretty conservative in most of my views, the one area that I'm pretty liberal in is I believe that anybody should be able to do whatever they want to their own body. Okay? You want to sit at home and do a line of cocaine? Cool. Now, you want to get in the car and drive when you're stoned or high or drunk or whatever it is, and you endanger my life? Well, that's where the government, in my opinion, steps in. But in my opinion, right, the only person who's going to run me is me. And so this for me is very. I brought some crib notes here in case we want to go down the religion argument or in case we want to go down the whatever argument, right? So, but for me, this is solely about the right of the mother. Sure. And I want to be clear for everybody that I'm not pro-abortion to the day the baby's born. Mm-hmm. I think that there should be some common sense out there. Sure. from what I can read and from what I have found, it seems like viability happens at 24 weeks. Okay, so maybe that's the nice cutoff. At 6 months, if you've been pregnant for 6 months and you haven't been able to make a decision, well, at that point you're gonna have to live with it, right? And that should be okay.
This isn't whether or not you order the Cobb salad or whether or not you order the chicken fajita salad. This is a little bit more important than that, and I understand.
Right,
I
and so
understand.
I'm not trying to
You can't go back and forth.
You
to
can't
it
go back and
forever.
forth. At some point, you have to be held responsible for your decisions, et cetera, et cetera. But especially when we think about cases of rape, incest, these were not decisions that the woman made, right? These were things that happened to her, and now she's being forced to do blah 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 blah, carry the baby to term, give it up for adoption, raise it, what have you. I think that there's a lot of people who have come out of this world and had a ton of adversity, but I think there's plenty of people who go, I'm not ready to be a parent. I'm not willing to do that. I don't want to go through this trauma. And at some point, they should have the decision, right, to be able to decide whether or not to proceed. It's not an unlimited right, right?
I think you're presenting the 50 Shades of Grey argument, which I have a lot. This is why I fight this, because I don't believe it is black and white. I don't believe it's black, white, and gray. I believe it is this 50 shades discussion, because I do think, like you said, 24 weeks. To me, that's past my point of comfortability.
Sure.
I have a belief system that, if you can still take a pill, which some people didn't even know, like Mo the other day, didn't even know that there was a pill, not the morning after pill, but a pill that is in the first 8 weeks, or I think it's 12 weeks, where it's essentially a heavy period. I think that I'm arbitrarily 8 weeks. You're kind of arbitrarily 24 weeks. There's so many different reasons why people believe in it, and it's very odd. It's a very odd circumstance where it's not that black and white discussion, and that's why I think that it's such a divisive topic.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, and
Let me
yeah.
ask you a question real fast, because it seems like the discussion when it comes to abortion is post after the act of sex. And, okay, but it's never a discussion before the act. And so when it comes to being, for instance, pro-choice, my question is, why wasn't the choice made before the act of sex? It just seems like the question of I'm pro-choice is after the act of sex, and then you actually have a baby
Which I disagree with.
Really?
Okay.
It for me.
So again, I think that everybody should have some self-responsibility.
Sure.
Okay. So wear a condom, take a pill, do the things that you're supposed to do to ensure that sex does not translate into a baby. Okay. On the flip side of that, I can name for you several personal examples of friends that I have who were on the pill, did use a condom, and still wound up pregnant. And they were 16 and they did all the right things.
Except one, abstinence.
Well,
I'm gonna go to that.
I mean, that's a whole nother.
There's one more, the morning after pill.
Some
Okay,
people,
so-
but some people don't even believe in the morning after, and
no,
that's
wait,
after the act.
wait, hang on. But Marie, if you were on the pill and the guy wore a condom,
You're not going to take
why
it.
would you have any reason to believe that you need to take a morning after pill?
Valid.
I'm trying to figure out why is abstinence not an option.
I'm going to take that one. So it is an option.
Sure.
But just the same to me as the option of potentially having a early stage abortion. The human nature is very difficult to wrap its head around, and we thrive on love, which that is the guiding factor of our life is love, and a lot of people will say that. Love involves overcoming loneliness, overcoming negative emotions, positive emotions. Take COVID. Take what happened during that period. How much we needed people in our life. We make bad decisions based on love. We make our best decisions based on love. We make a wide variety. So that need to fill a void in our life, and we talk mental illness, we talk mental issues. All of these things can be summed up to a mistake a human being can make. And that
Sure.
mistake it's not a ramification of maybe a speeding ticket or something very basic. This ramification, or the ramifications on this lead to a whole different change in your life. And I also get the pro-life argument. Well, that's life. But at
No, I wouldn't say that's the pro-life argument from my perspective. What I'm saying is the reason why I brought in the option of abstinence is because of the fact that I hear a lot of the talking points of, I'm not ready to have a baby. I understand. So don't engage in the act.
It's hard to say to human beings.
I understand that, but that is an option. My question is, why won't you choose that option?
I would love to. I mean, I'll be honest. I was a virgin till almost 20 years old.
I was not. I was not at all, period, 1,000%. And also, and I'll say this, and forgive me, guys, 3 years ago, my wife and I were expecting our third child. Our first boy. I got two little girls. Of course, we were pretty excited. I was, because it's a son, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And then I got a phone call 7 o'clock in the morning at 27.5 weeks from my wife, telling me that you got to come to the hospital now. So, Mom, baby, what's going on? I'm bleeding. And, of course, I had to run to the hospital. I knew that he was gone. We had to deliver a 27.5-week baby dead. That's tough to go through. Now, here's the conundrum. Lost the son. The trauma is still there.
Yeah.
The emotions still come. And so that's why I say, for me, we can't have any more kids. Because if she does, she has preeclampsia, she'll die. And so we're looking at adoption. And as we were going through the grieving process and meeting with people, and there's many more shows out there about it that's gruesome than ours, there is a lack of options when it comes to adopting. And I'm like, wait a minute, why is this not an option? Why is abortion the only option? Why not, okay, someone comes in and says, hey, you know what? I know that you got pregnant, no problem with it at all. We'll take care of all the expenses. Baby girl, we got you, no problem. It's on us, won't cost you anything else. We'll take the child. Why is that not an option? That's never really talked about.
There are organizations that do that, but they're not talked about. And that's the thing. And I'm sorry you went through that, but I want to thank you for putting this together, because I do believe that we need to have civil discussions, and we need to find out the why and be able to talk about it. And we've lost humanity on both sides, on the right and the left. We've lost that. And I think that is very important, because if we continue to destroy ourselves, we're going to destroy the country. And this is a very divisive topic, but I think that we can discuss it civilly. But I want to bring up this point really quick. You know, a lot of times on the right side, we talk about how both sides do it, okay? The right side, which is a fact, most abortions happen among minority communities, right? The left side says minority communities are not being served if we don't provide abortions. But I want to share a statistic with you. In Ohio, it's almost 50-50 abortions happening among married women, educated women that have careers, they have families, they're married, and they're having abortions at 50%, not 50% exactly, but it was like 43 or something, and 47% among minority communities. Same amount, not married. It's almost split in half of people who are having abortions. But
Marie, how does that affect you?
So it doesn't affect me, but I'm talking about our culture. And I'm talking about the main, the divisive points, how we use these, because they're not always accurate.
But can't you have whatever culture you want and allow me to have whatever culture I want?
Yeah. I'm not talking about culture. I'm just saying a fact that there are married women that are educated that are having abortions.
Absolutely.
And
Who cares?
Okay.
I mean, honestly, why does what somebody in Ohio is doing, why does that concern or affect you? And do you really want to carry the weight of the entire world's problems on your shoulders?
That's a valid point. But the point is, when you're looking at the statistics, a lot of these abortions are happening after 6 months. And so from a person of faith, and I know you're going to bring up religion, but a person...
I don't want to bring up religion.
I
have no interest in bringing up religion.
I don't have to.
I want to bring up religion.
Okay,
I don't have to.
You want to bring up religion.
I don't got to, but I
from a person of faith, and I have... in my company, we have distributors that are, all kinds of faiths. But you're looking at taking the life away of that child that doesn't, who's the most vulnerable? This child, we're supposed to be a voice for the voiceless. So if you're having an abortion after 6 months, after 6 months, because that's where you said that is where you draw the line for yourself. And I know it's different for everybody. Sure. But we know that child has a heartbeat, that child has pain because they've done surgeries on pregnant mothers, on the baby. They've done life-saving surgeries to save that child before it's born, and they have to give the child painkillers because they can feel pain. So coming from a humanity standpoint, and I believe that the left and the right can come together on this, because no one wants a child that is voiceless. And who's going to be the voice for that child that can feel pain, has a heartbeat, has, brain neurons?
Yeah.
No one wants that child to feel
Marie,
pain. And so
but
my
Marie, I
point
think
is
that-
on that is
I think, though,
that's where I'm coming from.
I think, though, that if the Republican Party presented a law that basically said that after 6 months, for example, because that's when or fetuses can feel pain, right?
It's actually before, but go ahead.
So tell me when.
I don't know the exact date, but I know it's
Which
before,
is another.
but I'll have to
it's
pull
all,
that
it all
out.
is a
Neither do
vague-
I.
Okay,
but
let's just say it's 6 months. So
let's
whatever
let's
that,
say
let's say
let's
it's
say
6
that
months.
98. Let's say
Okay.
that 3 out of 4 dentists agree, right? That Aquafresh is the best toothpaste, and also that let's just say it's 24 weeks, just for
Okay,
shits
just
and
say
giggles.
24 weeks.
Do your
Yeah.
thing.
So, if the Republicans had presented a law that said that all abortions are allowed up until 24 weeks, I don't think the left would have a problem with it.
I'm trying to figure out why we're depending on the law to govern our thought processes.
It's another
That's a
difficult.
good point.
So I'm gonna have. Can you hold that thought?
Go ahead, bro.
So but I'm gonna do a quick commercial break. I want to directly though before we
like
go.
BJ,
It's gonna
that's my
take
dude,
30 seconds. I want to say the statistics thing, very valid. Both sides are drastically off when it comes to the statistics because you've got the Republican side that's like it's only minorities, and then you got the left that will say, oh, look at all these regular married people. It is somewhere in the middle, and that 50% number is misleading because again we use it with crime statistics. We use it on black crime all the time. 12% is technically African Americans. You got Mexicans, so that number
Right.
is skewed, but it is a lot more of the privileged communities that are having these abortions. With that said, speaking of privilege, if you want to have great hair, I know it's a really awkward transition. Any kind of ads on this one are going to be very odd. But we do have a partnership with Monat. She was one of our first guests. Tony, great to have her on the show, and of course the product. I am now part of the company, and I'm not a huge fan of typical MLMs in any way, shape, or form, but I attended an event and then started looking at their products. I now have a bag full of them, and they represent us, and they support us because they support anything patriotism, freedom of speech, etc. And they're really good stuff. Completely organic, made fully vegan products. And it's also a great career for people. They have more millionaires than I think most of the network marketing companies. They've done $2.3 billion in sales in 6 years, and they've competed with some of the biggest products in the hair care and beauty world. So please check them out. I strongly suggest it. Go to bluntforce.mymonate.com. That's MYMONAT.com. I mean, my hair's looking pretty good.
No, it's not.
It's volumized.
It's volumized.
I see it.
is.
I
really
can see
shiny.
the volume.
I do that. It's
Really
shiny.
shiny.
That was my brow. That might have to
Okay,
powder.
right.
earlier.
Okay, my bad. Okay.
But again, please check out Monat, guys, and support us if you want to just buy the products, or if you're interested in becoming a partner and possibly having a little side gig, let us know. Thanks. LaDale, we left on a cliffhanger.
Okay.
What were you wanting to add into the conversation?
It just seems like the solution begins in the political realm with a law being passed. Well, we have evidence to show that didn't do very well.
Yep.
So when do we begin to not depend on the law to govern our thought processes?
That's the best argument for pro-choice I've ever heard.
And I would
Because by not passing a law, we're allowing abortions. We're allowing me to govern myself, Marie to govern herself, you to govern yours,
I would
etc.
say, BJ, in today's climate, what's stopping you from doing that now?
What's stopping me from doing what? Having
What's
an
stopping
abortion?
someone from having an abortion now?
Well, there's laws in the state of Texas.
Can somebody go to California to get that done?
If they have the means,
Aren't there companies paying for that now?
some.
So what's stopping you from getting an abortion?
So let me ask you. So let's ask you a different question.
Okay.
Okay. Why should my company, who employs, I don't have a company. If I did have a company,
I got you.
right?
Okay.
My company employs people. We provide benefits. We provide health insurance to people. We provide all these things, right? Mm-hmm. Why should I then have to foot the bill for you to go to California to have an abortion because we have a law in the state of Texas prohibiting them?
You're going to foot the bill either way.
How am I going to foot the bill either way?
Because if she has the child, she's going to have 6 weeks of paid leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's to me.
That's a
I
fair
think
point.
I think it's actually kind of for some of these companies. I think it is kind of a cop out, to be totally honest.
It is.
But again,
scalability standpoint,
I still go back to, I agree with you. Why do we need a law here? We don't need a law.
So that's why I go back.
But we shouldn't be passing pro-life laws then either, because that's the contradiction of what you're suggesting.
I actually disagree because they have the choice to pass those laws too. Pro-choice works on both sides, right?
Wait, say that again?
I said I disagree with you as well because pro-choice works on both sides. You have the choice to get an abortion. You have a choice to pass a law, right?
Sure.
So we agree pro-choice works well when it comes to both sides, right?
We agree that pro-choice works well when it comes to both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay.
It's almost like
We on one now.
the phrasing
Yeah.
is what catches people up. Because
Exactly.
again, I can look at what you're saying and you're pro-choice. I can look at what you're saying, you're pro-choice. It's literally, and this is why this is such a
Well,
tough.
that's the reason why the left and the right, it's
topic.
really a 360-degree circle,
And
right?
I like that.
Right.
This is good reason together.
Yeah.
My whole thing is here. I'm gonna go down this route. When it comes to pro-choice, well, your freedom of choice got you into the situation of having a baby.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. And hypothetically, let's just say it does. No problem. Now you want the choice to determine what value is. Now, you're saying, well, my value is a little bit higher than this baby's value, even though it's a I won't say a consequence, but a consequence of my decision making. So your freedom of choice got you into the situation.
Yep.
So my question is, when do you begin to reexamine your freedom of choice? What's governing it?
Well, this is a conversation that you and I were having kind of before we
Oh,
started,
yeah,
right? Now, this then starts to bleed into personal responsibility.
Come on now.
And I am a big fan of personal responsibility.
Talk to your partner. What's
and
up?
and I don't believe that anybody in America takes responsibility for anything these
I'll
days.
admit, yes, sir.
Everything is somebody else's fault. Everything, the blame's got to be placed somewhere else.
Entitlement.
Everything is not my fault, not my problem, not my department. Right? You and I can we can polish off all those bottles of whiskey and have a good old time talking about how nobody.
I don't like whiskey at all, guys.
I'd like to add something on personal responsibility because you mentioned you believe that I can do whatever I want with my body. The problem is I've talked to men who I actually know someone who impregnated a woman. She wanted abortion and he didn't want her to have an abortion. And where's the man's choice in it?
we have to pay child support. Welcome to my world.
Yeah, you have to pay
Yeah.
child support.
What do you
Yep.
got?
Yep,
You
I
have
agree
to
with
pay
you.
child support, but the mom wanted the abortion and she has a right to do it. So she went and got the abortion and he was devastated.
Yep.
And it affected him emotionally in a big, big way.
There are no. This is a weird circumstance where the men do not have rights. They don't.
Yes.
Correct.
So
That don't
so
make no
then
sense.
again,
Yep.
there's a twist right there because what about the man?
Shade
and we have
46
to
of gray.
Yes, but we have to take that into consideration as well.
Yeah.
But and then also I want to add one more because we were talking about how I'm a product of rape and I wouldn't be here. I have 5 children. They're all contributing towards Medicare so that Medicare can be sustained.
Right.
4 adult children and one left at home. I'm sorry. Yeah, 4 adult children. So I have a total of 5
You have
now.
lost track of your.
I lost track of how many kids
How
I have.
dare
So
you,
many
Marie.
kids. No, but anyway, I met a woman who was raped by her stepfather, gave birth to that child, and she's a psychotherapist. She's an amazing woman, very smart, and she would have done it all over again, given birth to that child. And I met another woman, same circumstance, was raped by her stepfather, gave that child up for abortion, and she's miserable. She wishes she would have aborted, and my point is us on the conservative side that are pro-life, we need to have compassion for these situations because we need to find help for these people for their trauma that they went through. Because I believe that a lot of her pro-choice argument really has to do with trauma that's not been dealt with.
Of course.
Because we don't know, this child that she gave for adoption, and she's like, her thinking is, well, this Christian family adopted the child and they're happy, but what about me? I was a kid. And can you imagine that happened to you as a child and you haven't, no help, no assistance? And the answer is not, having an abortion would have helped you, because it wouldn't have helped her. It wouldn't have stopped the rape. The rape happened. You don't reverse it.
Right. And I don't disagree. And we both agree, especially in the self-help world, that a victim mindset gets you nowhere. However, at the same time, we can't level trauma. Like, we don't know exactly what is going on in
Right.
her head, which
Correct.
is the reason I am actually more on the belief system of the pro-choice side, because I think it's selfish for me to think I can put myself in your head, your head, your head, and specifically this woman's head.
Right.
So I'm like, ugh, that's
Well,
where I get torn.
here's-
For me, that's what it all really comes back to,
So,
which is, again, your mom made the decision to have you, and she was okay with that decision.
Sure.
And I'm glad she did. Don't get me wrong. I wish everybody was as strong as your mom. But I'm not going to sit here and judge somebody who's not. And I'm not going to sit here and tell somebody who's been raped what they should and shouldn't feel and what would make them feel or not feel better. That's not for me to choose. And that's not, in my opinion, for the 51% of the majority to choose.
Well,
ahead, Marie.
I would say that's when wise counsel comes into play.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go biblical, we can. Even God doesn't force you to do things. He allows for you to choose.
Especially on Earth.
Now, there's a consequence for your decision making, and so when it comes to if someone gets raped, and they're on the fence of, I don't know what I should do. I'm getting, some people tell me I should get an abortion. Some people tell me that I should have a baby and maybe go into adoption. That's when you're inviting wise counsel and say, hey, can I give you a different perspective?
Yeah.
And you can give her a different perspective. Now, the ultimate decision comes down to her.
And that's
Right.
why
It's
that's
gonna
why
make
it's
you-
important to have those centers
Yes,
where you can
but
have that
that-
conversation.
yeah.
Hold on.
I
Go ahead.
agree with
Go ahead,
I agree
Marie.
with you.
Yeah,
So I can see your point, and I agree with you on that. We need to have this conversation, humanity, and we have to have compassion. I'm still pro-life. I'm still pro-life, but what I'm saying to my fellow pro-lifers is, let's have compassion. Let's have this discussion with these people who feel this way, because it is a serious trauma that has
Sure.
happened. And like you said, provide that wise counsel and allow the voices of those on the other side, pro-choice, to see that we do care.
Sure.
And we do want to hear your voice.
Sure.
We do care, and we do have that compassion for you.
Sure.
Because a lot of times on our side, when we're pro-life, they look at us as, you don't care about me, you don't know what happened to me, you don't understand my pain. In my case, I understand that pain because I have been raped.
Yeah.
I have had a miscarriage.
Sure.
I understand the pain. I'm just not on the same side.
Sure.
But that's where I think these conversations are so important, so that we can come together, reach out, and not be so polarized, and say, hey, how can I help you?
I think the problem
both
is
sides.
we do not, we're not very quick to hear and slow to speak. We're quick to speak and slow to hear. And we're falling in love with our own opinions. Your opinion means garbage. It means garbage if you're not considering the opposite people. So that's why, like, yeah, BJ is pro-choice. Hey, man, let's reason, let's talk, man. I want to listen to it, man. Hey, you may give me some wisdom that I don't even know. But a lot of the times is we're so in love with just sharing our opinion, we don't show that empathy.
Right.
And listening.
And we've lost, as Christians, we've
was
lost that
literally-
empathy, because I've seen Christians are like, that person's going to go to hell because they just they're a murderer, blah, blah, blah. And what I look at is, because people, and I'm going to bring this religion into it, people on the conservative, Christian, far right will say we have a right to judge, and they'll bring the quotes on the judgment. And then people on the opposite side that are Christians will say you don't have a right to judge, and they'll bring up verses for that, because you can do that. But what I look at is, how did Jesus approach? And they use the same story. Both sides use the same story. And they use this one. The woman who committed adultery, how the ones that want to judge, Jesus told her, go and sin no more. The ones that believe in no judgment, who's casting the first stone, right? But they miss the whole picture.
I would say Christians, when they use those scriptures, I would say, is that the same standard for you? So every day you get up and you commit an offense against God, and He's righteous, He can hold it against you. So can we apply the same standard to you that you apply to somebody else?
Exactly.
The answer is no. So how can you begin to show some people the kingdom?
Exactly.
This isn't
So
showing anybody the
it's
kingdom by
not.
judging.
But let's
Go
go
ahead.
back to that story really quick.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important.
Yeah.
First thing Jesus did, this woman was committing adultery. Yes.
Sure.
She was sinning. Yes. But the first thing he did was showed compassion. That's the first thing he did. He showed her compassion. He showed her love. That's the first thing for a woman that was already in sin. And we missed that whole point. And then after he shows her the compassion and he shows her the love, then he tells her, hey, go and sin no more. Why? Because he knows that her life will be much better if she's not living that lifestyle.
Sure.
But we go from one extreme to the other on both sides.
Yeah.
And we've lost that. We've lost the compassion. We've lost love. We've lost our humanity. And it's a bad place where we're at right now.
And that's
So I'll
what's-
throw out something as the token Jew in the room that you guys might jump all over me for.
It's
But
all good, baby. Do you
one of the things I think is interesting about our two religions, Judaism does not seek converts, so much so that you actually have to ask a rabbi 3 times and tell them that you want to convert before they'll even entertain your idea to do so. Christianity, the whole purpose of Christianity was founded on spreading Jesus' message, right? And so I don't care what sect of Christianity we're talking about. We can go back to the 1400s, 1500s, 1800s, 2022, doesn't matter when. It's all based off of the spreading of the message and essentially trying to convert everybody else. And so I think that there is some inherent judgment that's built into Christianity because of I'm going to recruit you and therefore I can judge you if you don't.
Sure.
If you don't accept Jesus, you're going to go to hell, right?
bad
Jews
teaching.
don't believe that, obviously, right? But I think that's one of the unintended consequences, if you will, of the spread of Christianity.
Well, biblical Christianity is a little different, so, yeah.
You're actually seeing the remnants of bad teaching. You're talking about bad teaching. Christ said in Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom. Why didn't he say himself? He said the kingdom. He didn't say himself. Then he said his righteousness. And he said, I am the door. Anyone who knocks on the door, I'll let him in. And so we keep saying the door, the door, the door, but Christ said, show them the kingdom, because that's what they lost. And you and I had a discussion. Like, for instance, I believe Christ did not bring religion, he brought a kingdom. 1,000%. I don't believe, I believe religion is man-made.
Yep.
All man-made. Sure. And we can have that discussion, but I love those discussions. That was a lot of fun for me.
There's a good George Carlin stand-up that's still one of my favorites to this day, and he takes the 10 Commandments and he whittles it down to 2. And he talks about how the 10 Commandments is a marketing decision, right? The 10 best dressed, the 10 most wanted.
Yeah.
But Jesus did that. He took it down to 2.
Right,
Love,
so,
love,
I mean-
love yourself, and then love your neighbor. as you said.
I mean, we
Or
could,
love God.
that's why I said at the beginning of this conversation, I really don't even want to, I know you want to go down the religion element here, which
Oh, you're welcome
I'm
to do
fine
that.
with, but that's not anything that I want to base the background of my
But
own
I,
personal
but I
arguments in.
think that the reason why that's important is because we're now going back to the concept of Roe versus Wade in the Constitution.
Sure.
We do have a freedom of religion in this country, and
We
each
do.
religion is slightly different
Yep.
in terms of what they believe. And
Sure.
even the Christian religion, as we're seeing, as a Christian, I'm torn on how I see the scripture on that. So in the Jewish religion, and I've heard multiple things, but the one thing I've read a lot of, but again, the Old Testament has a lot of chapters and different books and stuff. So the
There's
one
a
thing
lot
I'm
of
reading,
things that Jews are good at, and one of them is bullshit.
yeah, it's very true. But one of the things they say is
thing
life,
with Christians
because
too.
the overriding question is when does life begin? Because I do think, and there's a conversation I had earlier with a friend of mine, when does life begin? Because he goes, he judges those that are pro-choice, but then he sees a slight other side. If you truly don't believe that that's where life begins, I can't really tell you. The Jewish religion says life begins at childbirth,
At birth.
at birth.
So how do you rationalize Psalms
It depends.
139?
Orthodox
No.
Jews are different
No, it does not.
because Orthodox Jews
No,
don't
it doesn't.
believe
So
that.
I brought with me a copy of Genesis right here. So,
Oh, you got
I'm
the
sorry,
Hebrew,
Exodus.
Yeah, he's got the
Oh,
Hebrew.
I was gonna say, I see
Yeah.
Hebrew, baby.
So, Exodus 22, this goes into, and I'll just read this very quickly. When 2 or more parties fight, and one of them pushes a pregnant woman and a miscarriage results, but no other damage ensues, the responsible shall be fined accordingly. And then it says, but if other damage ensues, the penalty shall be life for life. Okay? So, very clear in Exodus, in the Old Testament, which is the only books that we believe in.
Genesis. Exodus?
Exodus.
That's
Sorry.
Exodus.
Sorry.
I said Genesis at the
Sorry,
beginning.
my
I was
bad.
already misquoting myself. But very clearly here does it state that if basically if you push a woman and a miscarriage ensues, it's just a fine. That's it. But if other damage ensues, meaning you damage the mother, then the penalty is life for life.
I don't think
Tooth for tooth, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. And so it is very, and then we can get into the Talmud and every other Jewish scripture. But it is very clear that Jews believe that life begins at birth.
So
I don't know if that's clear. I think
I don't
that,
think that's clear, and Orthodox Jews disagree with you because I have
you
distributors.
Orthodox?
No, I'm not, but I have distributors that
Then
are
don't quote
Orthodox.
them. Then I
and
know
they-
Christianity. Deal?
Yeah.
but
Fair?
no,
Deal, but I'm just
we've-
sharing
well, we've
my
talked-
view.
I don't think
that's
that's
not
fair,
fair because
BJ.
we've talked about
Not fair,
Christianity
BJ.
from all perspectives.
Come
Just
on, bro.
because it's.
But I'm not gonna- but I'm not gonna
I can
pretend-
also. So am I allowed to talk about black crime statistics?
Sure.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait,
It's the same
no,
thing.
it's not a crime statistic. We're not talking about a statistic. We're talking about what a group of people believes. I'm not going to say what you believe, and I don't want you to tell me what I believe.
But is
But
she
are
able
you an
to
Orthodox
communicate?
Jew?
Are you Orthodox Jew?
I'm not an Orthodox Jew,
So
but
go
is she?
ahead.
But
I'm
doesn't
not,
matter.
but I have distributors that are Orthodox Jews, and they're very,
I have
very
friends that are
pro-life.
Orthodox Jews.
They're pro-life, and they don't believe that life begins at birth. So there's different sects of Judaism that believe different things.
Sure, there's different
So
sects of Christianity that
in-
believe
in-
different things, but the
I'm
In
just saying
that
we
text,
can't
though.
blanket
Yeah,
all
you
Jews
can't-
believe this.
and you
I'm
can't
just saying
blanket
we
all
can't
Christians,
blanket.
'cause
Yeah,
here
you
I
can't
am.
blanket all Christians
but
either.
my question is, in that text, the language that I'm hearing you saying is miscarriage. And so are you classifying, or your belief system classifying a miscarriage as an abortion?
no, what?
Oh.
No. The way that this text gets interpreted from the rabbis,
Sure.
who are much more educated in the Torah than I am.
Okay.
Okay, but the way this gets interpreted
Okay.
is essentially, if a miscarriage occurs, it's a fine. If the mother is damaged, killed, etc., then it's a life for life.
It's essentially saying that it's not a life yet. But,
So
but it's implying, and I don't
it's
think
in-
it's clear, but it's implying that it's not a life.
At the
I don't
end
think
of
it
the end of the
implies
day, wait, guys. At the end of the day, most things in religion are interpreted.
Oh, I agree.
Right?
1,000%.
There's, like for the Sabbath, for example, the Orthodox Jews believe that you're not supposed to turn on a light switch. Show me where it says it in the Torah.
No,
Light switches didn't
1000%.
exist back then. So
Yes.
obviously that's an interpretation.
I'm rocking
right?
with you.
So
I'm rocking with you.
everything becomes an interpretation from the book. Now, the reason why I don't like to get in the whole religion conversation is because right above Exodus 22 and Exodus 20, we're talking about when a slave-owning party strikes a slave, and I don't believe in slavery. So I don't know that this is necessarily the best thing to be quoting for an argument, but
That's the reason
but
why.
I came prepared because
got you.
I didn't want to seem ignorant to my own religion.
We on
right?
one. That's why for me, I always look at the terms. I'm hearing the word miscarriage, so I got to figure out what do you mean by the miscarriage?
Well, so here's the other thing that's interesting, right? So the Torah is written in Hebrew.
I agree.
Okay,
have
and
the
I would
Hebrew
and
Bible.
I would love to meet the guy who came up with the very first interpretation,
Sure.
right? Because not interpretation, excuse me, translation.
Translation. Sure.
Right? The Rosetta. I want to meet the creator of the Rosetta Stone because let me
ahead,
just
I
throw
got you.
everything off its rockers for a second.
Yeah.
Genesis chapter 1, line 1: the earth was created in 7 days. Right?
I know you're going. Go ahead.
The word days in Hebrew is yom, and there's actually no literal translation to the word day.
Yeah.
So the word yom is actually literally translated to time period.
Sure.
That could be 7 million years. It
Sure.
could be 7 hours. We could be, all of us, Jews, Christians, everybody, we could be celebrating the Sabbath once a week when we should be celebrating it once every 7 million years.
Sure.
That's
we
why I
like
don't
to
like to
party.
go down the religion argument because it's so ambiguous
I
and
got
everybody
you this
interprets a
time.
different way.
I guess my question to you, because you actually just said that you guys, that Judaism acknowledges the Old Testament, and I know that. How do you rationalize Psalms 139 when sin at conception sin at conception sin is present?
I don't.
But that speaks to conception.
I understand.
So how do you define conception?
How do I define conception?
Yeah, in that context, what does that mean?
I think the way we all define conception.
So conception in that context means when the sperm hits the egg, right?
I guess so.
Gotcha. Now, here's my question. Doesn't after the sexual act, doesn't the sperm swim to an egg?
The way I understand things to work.
Gotcha. Everybody's seen the videos. I'm asking dumb questions. My bad, y'all. Forgive me. So last time I checked, things that are alive swim, right? So I'm trying to figure out, when does life begin? Because we see a live sperm swimming to an egg. So is that not life?
According to the Bible, it is. And that's where I'm still saying.
Psalms 139.
Wait.
Yes, sir.
So does that mean that every time that I jerk off that I am aborting however many infants?
No, not
it hasn't fertilized.
Exactly.
But do you understand But do you understand where I'm going? Because I have
hear what you're saying.
I have just wasted and released a bunch of things that are alive in your mind.
I'm rocking with you, but the term that I'm using is conception. So that means when the sperm hits the egg.
I get it.
But then it goes back to the whole discussion of the Bible being a
rocking
little.
with you. I'm
So
rocking with you,
this
man.
is where I want to spin this to.
I love it, bro.
This is where because this is one conversation I wanted to have before we ended.
Mm-hmm.
Who's hunted?
I don't like the outdoors, so I'd have not.
Okay. Have you ever hunted?
I've hunted before.
I just hunted this last year. I killed an animal for the first time.
Fish, does that count?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and this is where
fish.
I'm going with this is, yes, there is a difference between humanity. There's a difference between human beings. But at the same time, when I look at an image, and this is part of what I wake up in the morning when we're having this discussion, and people show what a baby looks like, or a in utero child could look like. The terminology, because you said child. I have to be careful. But we're talking 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and you start to see what it is, and you blow it up on a television screen like that, and you say, look at this. You've got all these different things, when in all reality, it's about this big.
Yes.
Right.
Which to me is the size, and forgive me for saying this, of an insect.
Sure.
And I struggle to see the relationship, especially when I know that many conservatives that are pro-life are also pro-hunting. Because at that point, to me, when you kill an animal, they feel pain. When we eat meat, they feel pain when they're being killed. So all of a sudden, we've opened this up, and I have one other thought going into war. But we'll talk about that before we end. So how does because animals feel pain. So which one of you guys want to take that?
I'll go.
But you know what's interesting, though,
first.
what you're
Yeah,
saying,
and then
and I'll let them speak, but just what's interesting about this is, as humans, for whatever reason, we have a less problem of killing something insignificantly small like an ant or an insect or something like that. Yet the second that somebody wants to kill an elephant or a whale or some large animal, suddenly we all have feelings and emotions around it.
So
It's an interesting conundrum of human life when you think about it. But I mean, who has not taken a magnifying glass and fried well, maybe you didn't grow up in the 80s.
You creepy. No, that's weird. But no, but
You clearly didn't spend time at summer camp.
Sure. So who did you guys agree to take the response on this one?
I'd like to respond
Go
to
for
it.
it.
Okay,
You
I'll
go
go
first.
for it. So the difference, you said, some of us will consider life for an elephant, but not an ant, right? Human beings are the only beings that are able to think, to create, and to make decisions, rational decisions. Whereas animals, they operate based on instinct.
I'm sorry, what?
What about dolphins?
Dolphins are mammals. No, but dolphins can't create the way we can. We are
So
created in
animal-
God's image. We're at a
Monkeys can. Yeah.
okay, right, but we're at the highest
not-
level.
okay,
We're at
I'll give
the
you that.
highest level.
Hold on.
Clearly.
We're at the highest level.
Okay.
We're the only ones that can build buildings. A dolphin cannot build a building.
Not
a
when they're in
dolphin
the
can,
womb.
even when
I
they're
mean, a human being when they're in the womb, they're not building buildings.
No,
It's
they're-
the potential.
the potential is there, but the potential is not there for any other animal. And I mean, look, we have laws about protecting eggs, turtle eggs. So we have
I'm not a PETA fan. Let's be
So
clear.
I'm just saying, putting it into perspective, because the potential of the human life is we have the potential to create, whereas animals do not have the potential. Monkeys do not have the potential to create at the level that
I
we
don't
can. So
think
we're
that
not at
that's
the same level.
Correct at all.
Well, no.
Have you seen a monkey create a building?
Well,
No, but I've seen a monkey draw.
Okay, but
I've seen an elephant paint a picture.
Yes.
they're not at the same. You can train any animal.
Marie, are you talking about at our same degree? Like, for instance, the dolphin's not going to build that.
Yeah.
They'll build, I'll
I'm
give you
not-
that.
Well,
but there's some
dolphins don't have
intellect there.
thumbs.
Okay, yes, they have intelligence, but
The
we
thumb
have.
thing thing is a critical element here of us. It's not just our brain. It's also wait, seriously.
opposable thumb is huge in
Wait.
terms-
You wouldn't be able to build a building if you were quadriplegic.
Yeah, he's right.
Right?
He's right.
So I don't care how big your brain is, if you don't have the ability to use your hands and everything like that, you're not building anything.
There you go. I agree with that 1,000%.
So
Right.
it's not just about what's going on here. There is an element here
But
that
I'm talking
does
about
not exist in other
right.
animals.
I'm talking about intelligence, because even if you're born without arms, without limbs, you can still build a building by organizing it and hiring people to do it for you.
Right.
So I'm talking about the intellect level. The human being has the highest intellect
Okay,
of
I'll give you
any
that.
living
I'll give you that. I'll give you
organism
that.
in the
Okay.
world. That's what I'm talking
It's
about.
still a life. So
It's still a life, but I'm saying that it's a different level. And when it comes to the Bible, and I think it's Psalm 139, I'm not sure if I got that
Yeah.
right, where King David says, "You formed me in my mother's womb."
And it can sin, and it's
Yes,
sin.
and you formed me in my mother's womb, and so that talks about God forming a child in the mother's womb. So if we want to bring religion to it, that's a direct quote.
give me about 45 seconds. We're gonna do we're not gonna be done.
you're
But
good,
We
you're good.
Beam ends at 58 minutes.
I'll do it
just
in
in
20
case.
seconds. No
So
problem.
go ahead.
I think we're talking about a value proposition right now when it comes to, we humans have
got
the
you.
authority to be able to determine the value of said insect, things in that nature. It's just strange in Genesis chapter 1, verse 20, I think 5, it says, "Let us make man in our image, glory, and our likeness, and let them rule over the birds of the air." And notice it didn't say anything about humans.
Yeah.
Not one time.
Yeah, I think that's why it's tough. Okay,
You know,
we
the
have
other-
more to talk about this, and we're just kind of a little bit more on
got
the
you.
show. But guys, first off, let's talk inflation, and then let's talk about my Patriots. I know, totally random, not inflation in the belly. Friends, inflation is it wiping you out? Are you cutting back to make ends meet? Food prices have doubled and are continuing to go higher. So with these insane prices at the pump, all of it's going to get worse, but you can fight inflation by getting affordable, delicious emergency food that costs far less than store-bought food. You see, this food is freeze-dried. It's delicious. Go to what is it? Preparewithbtc.com. I didn't, it's got X's there. Preparewithbtc.com to get what is this month? $150 off of your 3-month food kit. Again, that's preparewithbtc.com. Please help us out by being that person for us. But before we go to the ending break, check out our store. Go to awakenotwokestore.com. It's awake for 15% off for all of our gear, including Unvaccinated Lives Matter, the hats, all that good stuff. So check that out. And if you're on WeBeam or wherever, we are coming back to wrap up this episode. Oh, God. Trust me, we could be going
It's
for
all
2
good,
hours.
baby.
So here's what I want to now bring back to try to wrap this up. First off, where we're at, about an hour in, these are the conversations that people need to have.
Yes.
Because I've seen aha moments there. I've seen aha moments here. I've seen aha moments on every single person, which I'm going to tell you, on the Emmanuel Acho show,
That was not none.
there was not a single aha moment. There was not a single one.
I
And there
actually
was
know
even
his dad. I know his dad. I know his dad, Emmanuel Acho's dad.
He
used to
raised
be
a great
my-
kid.
Oh,
I just think he's gone down the woke rabbit hole a little bit too far. But one of the things that bothered me about that show is the lies. And I think part of the division happens with lies. Ectopic pregnancy being one of them. One of the women on the show
Yeah.
had an ectopic pregnancy and a medical abortion, which I think we should just call a medical procedure.
Sure.
And they were out and out. She goes, I had to hide myself. The doctor would not perform it. Either your doctor's an idiot or you're lying. Because in the state of Texas, you are allowed to have that abortion. So that is a emotionally manipulative conversation without Emmanuel Acho, who's an educated man that should know way better to go, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
And all that does is create misinformation, which causes the left or the pro-choice side to go, how dare we have that effect on women's bodies?
Yeah,
And
any doctor that does not perform that is practicing medical malpractice and should lose their license.
has to
because
do it
that's
after
ridiculous.
hours in a close. Like,
Yeah,
it's either
that doesn't
a
make any
blatant
sense.
lie.
But guys, wait 1 second. The fear of getting sued and your license taken away is real for some of these doctors.
Oh, I agree.
And doctors, in my opinion, should not be forced to consult legal counsel before doing a medical procedure.
But it's an ectopic pregnancy. It's
that's
blatant.
life-saving.
They are misinformed, probably because the doctor has watched too much news.
Fine.
So that
But-
we're
but-
creating more of a problem than there really is.
Sure, I get it.
So here's my so we talked about animals, and I think that that's still kind of this. It brings up this gray area. But here's my next one. Let's talk war. Kelly brought this up, and I was like,
Okay.
oh, shit, I never thought about this. So we talk about life. We talk about the sanctity of life. A lot of, again, I'm not pro-war, but if there needs to be a war, you know what? We got to take out the Taliban. We got to take out whatever. Does that mean that we firmly believe that every single person fighting on the opposite side of a war is a bad person?
No.
Because there's life.
No, not at all, period. And this is when you deal with, I'm going to use the word misinformation.
Okay.
There's a lot of spinning going on both sides. And it's trash. It's terrible.
Ukraine, Russia, perfect example.
Perfect example. And so, now, are there some evil people? Sure. I know a lot of military guys that do some stuff that I'm not going to repeat on the air, but they did it to protect us, and for real. But I agree, a lot of wars have been fought because of misinformation.
Of course.
1,000%.
So there's good people, but we also believe that there
Not
is a
always,
greater
though.
purpose. But take away what what people felt about Vietnam, but there was
No. I mean, not all the time are all of the soldiers on the other side good people.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying
right?
that. But
Okay.
is there good people dying on the other side? Like, are there?
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's always fallout from war.
So, but that's not only is it not illegal, we support it because it's our side against them. Of
course.
Now you're back to that morality
Because nothing
argument
brings people
again.
together than a common hatred of other people.
You back to that morality argument. It's just strange. No matter the subject, you always point back to that morality argument every single time. What's your intention? What's guiding your decision making? That's where the battle is fought, not at the legal or law making section.
Yeah.
That's the problem that I actually have with this type of dialogue. Not here, but out in the masses. This is great dialogue. It's more okay. When can we begin to really grow in wisdom to really begin to make better, wise decisions that further not only my life but also society's life in a better manner versus mandating things? And to me, it didn't make any sense for if your solution begins in the political realm, you've already lost. You're done for. It's done because unfortunately, those political vote getters, not politicians, political vote getters is what they are. Those are some of the dumbest people I've ever met in my life, and I know a lot of them.
Going back to the animal argument just for half a second.
Yeah, go for it.
One of the other things I think is interesting about animals that humans can't seem to get on board with is if a mother of any animal species births however many babies, and one of them appears to be deformed, one of them is the runt, one of them is whatever, there is some survival of the fittest in the animal kingdom. Mothers have been known to sit on their children, eat their children, and everything else, even after birth, because they don't think that child is going to be able to have a good life, according to the mother's motherly instinct. Here, in our civilized society, we want to try and expel every piece of medical knowledge and everything else that we have to try and save every single person after birth, which again, I'm not taking one side here over the other. I just think it's interesting where animals sit on the equation, right? And what humans can't seem to get past.
Or can animals not seem to get past it?
Or can animals not seem to get
Where
past
they don't realize that runt could have, some
Sure,
of the
maybe.
best dogs, animals people have, it turns out to be the runt.
My dog's a runt and is the best dog
can,
ever.
You can
Yeah.
lean one way or the other, and it's
Here we
very
go
difficult.
again, Edward.
And that whole, there we go again, is exactly why in my head, I am slightly more pro-choice. Now, a big flawed side of the pro-life argument the pro-choice argument that we talked about earlier, and I didn't quite chime in at that point, is I don't think, I actually, and I think you were on the show when I said this, I think that this ending of Roe versus Wade is not going to change the overall amount of abortions that happen in this country, which is why I think this whole conversation is much to do about nothing from a political standpoint. People can go to other states, and yes, does that bring up the argument of, well, you're privileged enough to go to another state? If we are this is the United States of America. I am going to throw this out there, take away corporations giving away, $3,000, $5,000, $6,000. We live in the land of, for the most part, plenty. It is not going to be a strain for somebody to drive to another state to make it happen. The state of Texas, when we did the heartbeat bill, it went to, I believe, 48% of the abortions from the year prior done in the state of Texas. The amount of Texans that had abortions were about 97%. They just went to other states. So it doesn't really change things. The same way as sometimes drug usage in a weird way. It makes it harder if you have to get a license or whatever it might be. I don't think it's going to affect the overall number. That's why I don't believe the right should be celebrating. I also think that judgmental side from that far right argument makes the left go exactly why I feel this way. But I think across the board, it's much to do about nothing from a policy standpoint, because I do believe that even people that are poor, if they really want to, can find a way to scrounge up a couple $100 or borrow it from family members to go to a different state.
I would say, well, go ahead, Marie, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I want to go back to that animal argument really quick, because we kind of left it there, and you said, and I want to restate this to make sure that I'm understanding it properly. Something about, animals have a baby, they have a runt, and we have no problem with that being destroyed, et cetera, right?
The mother.
The mother,
Yeah.
the mother, exactly. But from the pro-life side, that is the fear of equating humanity to that level. So you have, like my mother, for example, she was in a coma for 3 months. They were ready to pull the plug. Why? Because there was no viability. There's no chance of life. So my grandmother, she prayed, and I do believe it's a miracle. Even the doctors who didn't believe in God believed it was a miracle that she opened her eyes and learned how to talk and walk again. So I think for us humans, we're at a whole nother level on the emotional side, on the intellect side, than animals are. And so we value life at a different level because of the potential. So we worry about, okay, so your grandmother has to go to the nursing home. Why not just end her life? Because you know what? They're not contributing to society. So then when you get into eugenics, then
That
you get
brings
into all this stuff.
euthanasia. And there's a whole different conversation about, if I want to go, I wish I could go out on my own terms, but then it's weird. So I think that brings up another complete issue.
But that's the point of, comparing that to the animal kingdom.
Now, before,
I just want to bring that up.
And we're about to wrap up after you. We'll probably do that. But Casey, my man in the backstage, sent an interesting message about animals. I just want to give him a shout out back there. We forgot about, in terms of building structures, beavers.
Oh, yeah, beavers.
Look at beavers,
Casey,
man.
nice job, buddy.
The dams.
Good stuff, man. Yes, sir.
The dams. Yep.
Yes.
So, anyways, beavers can beard, and also, ironically enough, beavers are what gets us into this whole discussion.
Yeah.
Totally different joke. Go ahead.
I would say, man, this has been a very good discussion. We leaned in and we reasoned together. This was not a debate. This was a good, wholesome discussion. And some things that we can take, as you said, Russo, aha moments, which is great for you to begin to think and reason together. And I think a part 2 discussion will be great, no matter if it's us or another set of people as well.
Yeah.
But inviting in reason and logic and not getting so emotional about everything, not negating emotion, but not leading with emotion, I think that's the most wisest thing for us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any topic that you want to really quick hit before we wrap this up?
Let me just end my part, I guess, on one.
Okay, so let's do closing
last
comments.
thoughts, right? So my last thought is as follows, guys. We have been talking about this even before the show started about personal responsibility, and I'm a big fan of personal responsibility, and I believe that everybody should take a lot of personal responsibility for everything that they do. And in that same vein, I wish that everybody would focus on themselves a little bit more, and try and doing what they can to make the world a better place, and worrying less about what other people should and shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that if, in my opinion, I don't think we should be having this abortion conversation. I think we should be having conversations about, the anger level of Americans in general, right, and people across the world. I think we should be having conversations about the economy and how that's going to shit. I think we should be having conversations about, but ultimately, at the end of the day, let me live my life. I'm going to let you live your life, and then let's break bread and have a good conversation.
Let's get it. Yes, sir.
The only person I can't have a conversation with on this topic is the person that was super forced vaccination and then now going my body, my choice. That's the one person I'm like, Nope, I can't have a conversation. You could be pro. You could be. I mean, I can't have a conversation.
exactly.
I'm being a little extreme.
I know you are.
But the sensibility.
There's hypocrisy all
you
over.
You could
right?
be. You could be.
my point.
Yeah.
Right.
But worry more about yourself and less about what other people are doing.
Right.
Right.
But that hypocritical bug comes to bite you in the ass. And again, I'm completely fine if you are pro-vaccine.
Sure.
But those that were literally like, you shouldn't have a job, you shouldn't have a life, you shouldn't have whatever, and now they're in the street. We're like, my body, my uterus, my like, you're an asshole. All right.
So I agree with you. Personal responsibility. I'm a big supporter of taking personal responsibility.
Yeah.
But I do believe that this conversation is important.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's important to have this conversation in the way that we're having it.
Sure.
Because it's all over the media, and I think it's great that you're providing this platform. So whatever side you're on, hey, take a look at this. We're not all crazy on this side or that side, and maybe you can learn something. So I think these conversations are important. I think they're great. And I disagree on the animal side. Yeah, beavers can build, but not to the level that we can. Again, humans have the highest intellect. And
I agree
that's
with
it.
you.
I
I agree.
I don't agree that humans don't have the highest.
Yeah, we all agree on
We
that.
all
one.
agree on that. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. No, excellent. So, LaDale, you're going to have your last words. Kind of in response, Marie, to what you said, and then bounce it back to you. I think that the problem why we are here, why the media is doing this, is it's everything that ebbs and flows, whether it's 50 years or 7 million years. It doesn't matter. We went from that safe and rare to celebration. You've got Miley Cyrus with a friggin' birthday cake being like, abortion is healthcare, and it's like you've taken it to a level that now has caused the conservative side, the Republicans, go, we got to overturn this bullshit, even though it was bad constitutional.
It's all
law.
freaking memes, man.
But it is
And honestly, memes replace logical argument with shock value.
and that's the problem. And people then started thinking, well, I can celebrate it, and that celebration has led us to a place because there was a lot of abortions happening with, again, the middle to upper class married people, that if I believe as though people would have just kept it to themselves, because like you said, it's just everybody's choice to do what they want, instead of, this is what I did, this is great, I'm allowed to do this. It's like nobody was even fighting you 3 years ago when you had a birthday cake saying you killed a baby. And I think that's where we are the way we are. But go ahead. LaDale, go ahead.
Well,
wrap it up.
I guess for me, I am pro-life. Number one, I believe that life begins at conception, but I do not believe that you should force your belief system on someone else. You can persuade them by having a good, reasonable discussion, and I think what we've seen is people are all coming to the conclusion to where if you don't believe it my way, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I would say you are ripe for deception. You will be deceived, unfortunately, because you're in your own echo chamber. So I hope this serves as an example how not just conservative thinking people, but anyone can get together in the room, reason together, be quick to hear and slow to speak, make your points, which is great, but respond to so that you can understand what's going on. All that you're getting, gain understanding. So that would be my ending comments. And don't I look for real clean? Look at your pad.
Where do you get is that your, I see you
It
with
is
the worship
not.
brand all the
A
time.
friend of mine actually owns a company called Art of Homage, or AOH, and
Yeah.
I buy all this. So this is their the hat. They have several hats, and this is Lamb Talk. This is their polo brand.
I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. Marie, and you said it earlier, but where can people find you?
MarieCosgrove.com.
Got it. BJ, you selling homes?
BJantwell.com.
Got it.
And look
Or
me up.
in the abortion topic, instead of having sex, you could just be, do a BJ instead of never mind.
My daughter's going to watch
He's got
this.
earmuffs on.
And you can see me, guys. My name LaDale Buggs on all platforms.
You're
It's
really
me.
fun to watch on social media. And
It
that's kinda
is.
how
I
we
am
started.
really good fun to watch. Look at me.
You're an intelligent
Yeah,
dude, too.
I'm very intelligent.
Yeah.
I am.
Joe laughed at the look at me. Apparently, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Guys, this is a great conversation. This is a conversation more people need to have. For somebody that combs the internet for these kind of discussions, find me one. Find me one. They don't have them. It's the echo chambers are what's causing the division in this country. And being able to have a conversation like this with BJ, with Marie, and with LaDale allows us to see a slightly different perspective. We are allowed to critique other people's thought processes, but at the same time, we have to be a little bit more introspective and realize that we are not perfect. The only person 100% wrong, like as I like to say in an argument, is the person that only thinks that they are 100% right. Do me a huge favor, share the videos like this, check out our store to kind of support us, not kind of, but it does, awakenotwokestore.com, use awake for 15% off, and start having these conversations with people and stop judging quite so much and be open to a difference in opinion. Thank you guys. This was Blunt Force Discussion.